put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We start off our conversations this morning by speaking with Inspector Sherla Prince from the T.T.P.S. Of course, she's going to bring us weekly updates on the T.T.P.S. as the things happening on the island of Tobago as crime is concerned. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna, and thanks for having me here, and good morning to all your viewers and your listeners this morning.
And you know, it's always a pleasure speaking with a representative from T.T.P.S, primarily because we get the information directly from you guys in terms of what is happening on the island. And just coming out of the weekend, yesterday, there was a discovery of a body on the beach. I think it's behind the A&R Robinson International Airport.
Yes,
and of course, we want to get the updates in terms of that particular crime and also things that have been happening in the space over the past week or so.
Okay, so let me extend condolences to Mr. Marcus Archer family. He's a non-national from a Ghanaian national. And he was found yesterday with his throat slit behind the airport. I don't have any additional information for that. It's just unfortunate. And going forward, the Trinidad and Tobago, the Tobago Divisional Task Force recovered 26 assorted wrongs last week. And in law enforcement, each wrong represents a life saved. So we just want to applaud the task force for such a good recovery. And if you go to Crown Point, there was a recovery of over 50 marijuana blocks, a total of 29.7 kilograms. And that inquiry is continuing, it's ongoing. And if we touch in our capital, you see that the record has resumed. So between last week, we had 71 vehicles wrecked. So that is telling the T.T.P.S. on the island of Tobago, just in Scarborough alone, that person are still parking indiscriminately. So we just want them to pay attention to the no parking signs in and around Scarborough.
And you know, I want to touch a little bit before you move on the no parking zones. There are signs.
There are signs.
I have been in Scarborough, even, you know, in Tobago in general, just on the nation's roads, and you will see no parking, you will see no vending, and you'll see people parking there and vending there. So I am trying to figure out, is it that they can't see it? If I can see it, I'm not understanding what is happening. And, you know, the fact now that you are seeing that the record is back, that's a good thing. It will probably hinder them from doing that. But I'm trying to figure out the thought process. If you see a sign that says no parking, it's a big blue sign. Sometimes they have the, what do you call them, the barriers?
Yes, that blue sign that says no parking. No parking. The commissioner, or even those ones that are tall, embedded on the ground, about 6 feet tall.
Exactly.
On a pole.
And they have some even painted on the ground. It says no parking.
People take chances. That is what motorists do. They take chances. They don't expect the police to be on every corner, so they take chances.
But why do you have to wait for the police to tell you don't park there if there's a sign that says no parking? And these are the things I have challenges with. Why are we being lawless? I think I call it being lawless and reckless, because if there are guidelines, there's a reason why there are rules and guidelines. No parking in front of a fire hydrant. You know this. Why are you parking there? In the event of an incident, what is going to happen? You park your vehicle, you leave and you go wherever you are. Nobody knows where you are. Nobody knows who's the owner of this vehicle. You go away for hours at a time. Nobody can contact you. There's an emergency. What happens?
Adanna, as I said, some motorists, they just do the most. They just forget about the no parking. They forget about it's a lawless society, and we are trying to curb that.
And the other thing is very frustrating, because the way how Scarborough is now, a lot of vehicles come into Scarborough, and, you know, there really is a challenge for parking. And as you said, some people take chances. They might be thinking, oh, just running into the supermarket to grab something, I could put my car in the corner here. But you go into the supermarkets, you're expecting to meet maybe 2 persons, and they meet 50. And it's still longer than you expected. And so you're causing an inconvenience on the outside, traffic pile up, and you know,
an obstruction. Yes, it happens. It happens every day. It happens every day. And I want to commend the officers under the astute leadership of Woman Sergeant Daniel Kirk and her team. Excellent job. I want to commend you. They do work very hard. And what we see happening too, Adanna, is that quite a number of persons in the last 2 months have gone before the court, never been issued with a driving permit. So persons just wake up one morning and just say, I feel to drive today. And they take a vehicle and they go, have never been issued. So we have quite a number of persons before the court, driving never been issued. So I just want to urge everybody to do the right thing. Go get your license and drive the vehicle.
Listen, I want to talk to our viewers this morning, okay? Let us do the right thing. Let us do what is right, even when nobody is looking. You know it is not right to park in a no parking zone. You are not supposed to drive a motor vehicle without a driver's permit or driver's license, as we call it. Please ensure that you have the right, the authority to do so, the right to do so, the license to do so before you take a vehicle. Your insurances as well.
Correct. The insurance gives you permission to be on that road. If in case you get into an accident, it is valid. So before you go into your vehicle, check to see if you have a driver's permit, the insurance for your vehicle. And when you sit in your vehicle, just pull the safety belt.
That's the other issue.
Just pull your safety belt. It goes when driving.
The other thing I want to talk about as we're talking about driving is using your indicator in your vehicle. I have a serious challenge driving behind someone who makes a sudden turn without indicating. And then here you are as the driver behind this person having to drive for yourself and 3 other vehicles behind you because this person made a sudden turn or a sudden stop without indicating. And now you have to use your reflexes to try to drive safely without causing a collision behind you.
Well, Adanna too, and that's why we always stay 3 car lengths behind someone. It may not always be practical. However, when you're driving, you're not driving for yourself. So I always advise persons when you're driving, just stay 1 car length, 2 car length. In case the person decides to stop suddenly or to just swing on you without indicating, you will have enough time to stop instead of causing an accident. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, we have to be careful, mindful, and we have to think about other people when we're using the nation's roads because roads are for all of us to use and to enjoy. I want to continue with the updates in terms of criminal activity on the island, apprehension and persons before the court, and just to give us some data as to where we are where that is concerned.
Well, for the past week, we have seen several persons before we have a warrant exercises has continued. There is a joint army patrol, but the TTR with the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. So we have been working assiduously. Persons have been before the court in the last week. So we continue to do our anti-crime exercises. Our operation, as we normally call it, it's ongoing. It has not stopped.
Okay, good. And, I always want to continue to encourage communities to come out and help the T.T.P.S, of course, because we live in this space. And, we want to live safe, peacefully, and, we want to ensure that we can enjoy our space here on the island of Tobago. So, of course, if you see something, say something. If you see something strange happening in your neighborhood, somebody you've not seen before, some type of activity that doesn't look legit, you can contact the T.T.P.S.
Yes.
Or, one of those agencies who provided anonymity, that you can call them anonymously, give the information, and ensure that we kind of curb crime as much as we can here on the island of Tobago. We have to go for a very, very short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about bullying. We've seen an increase, especially in our schools. It also happens in the workplace. It happens online. And so we want to talk about bullying this morning and the criminal aspects of bullying and how to protect yourself from that type of action. We have to go for a short break before we come back. But as we go for a break, we invite you to help us. Share the live. Share the live. Share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. We continue conversations this morning with Inspector Sherla Prince. We head on into talking about bullying. Now we're going to start off with the question, what is bullying? So Inspector Prince, let's go through the pieces. What is bullying?
So Adanna, bullying is a form of aggressive behavior which someone intentionally and repeatedly causes someone some little discomfort and injury. And there are different types of bullying. There are physical bullying, that is harming someone, body by spitting on them, shoving them, pushing them. That's physical bullying, kicking them, and even damage to their property. So, for example, your children go to school and they have a new book bag, and somebody, envy, and they'll take that book bag and want to drop it in the toilet, and they might kick them, they might be passing, put their foot out and trip them. All of that is physical bullying. And there's another offense, another type of bullying is verbal bullying. That's where it involves words.
Name calling.
All right, we can demean, it can hurt person, saying that you're stupid and stuff like that. All right, so that is two of the most prominent, but it's not all. You have social bullying. That's where it aims of hurting someone's reputation. All right, and the relationship by spreading rumors about them, which is not truth. And we have, of course, electronic and cyberbullying, where we don't have any cyberbullying laws in Trinidad and Tobago. So it takes place through the digital devices. It includes sending text messages on social media and posting pictures and, hurtful comments on somebody's photos. Now, that is some of the types of bullying that we see happening in Trinidad and Tobago at this time.
And it's very unfortunate that sometimes the actions that you have to take to prevent yourself from bullying could either turn you into a bully or could either be tragic.
Yes.
Like what we saw happening just the last week or the week before with a young guy, 15 years.
15.
And thinking that his only solution, his only way out is out. And sometimes bullies, I don't know that they enter a situation thinking that that's going to be the end. They don't consider the fact that their bullying can be so extreme to somebody that they can't think of a way out of it. They don't know how to defend themselves, and they don't know how to stand up against a bully, and so they end up in these situations. And too often we see things like this happening. And I just want to take a moment to speak to people, if you permit me. Let us consider the most extreme outcome that could come from bullying before you attempt bullying. Even if you are going through something and you think that bullying is a way to make you feel mature, to make you feel as if you're in control, remember that you are doing this to someone else who might not be as strong. They might be very vulnerable, going through something else apart from what you are inflicting on them that will cause them to take a type of action that you don't want to be responsible for. You don't want to be responsible for somebody taking their lives because of your actions. So, I want to go through now some of the things you can do as somebody who might be prone to being bullied. How can you protect yourself, your space, from physical bullying, verbal bullying? What do you do to ensure that you can stand up against a bully without becoming a bully yourself?
Okay, so first, some measures that we can take. Parents can educate their children on bullying. Some children, because of the age, they don't understand what bullying is. So you could talk to your child, do you know what bullying is? And just give them some examples where they can understand and which they can relate to. Another thing, talk frequently and openly to your children. So when you have that rapport with your children, it's easy for them to come and say, Mommy and Daddy, today someone has pulled my hair, cut my hair, and all of that amounts to bullying. Another thing that you can do, build a child's self-confidence. Build them up. Praise them. They like that. Good job. I love you. Build them. Make sure you're a positive role model outside there. These are some of the things that we can do to help prevent bullying. But the most important thing you do, you must educate your children. All right? You can become the friend on social media. Go online with them. Pull up this stuff on bullying. Pull up the example, because it's an international thing, bullying. Right? So they can read about it. And even in some of the schools, we can, the police service, we have the community-oriented police. They have their seminars at different schools throughout Tobago. So they go into the schools and they talk to the classes on educating them on bullying. And not only bullying for schools, they are bullying on the workplace. Some people feel bullying just deals with children, but on the workplace you have a supervisor, talking down to you and not encouraging you, and you feel less of a person. So they're making you, they're touching on your morale, making you feel small. That all of these amongst the bullying.
And you really have to encourage yourself, especially as an adult. For a child, you can provide that measure of support to the
Yes.
child. But as an adult, you really have to dig deep and encourage yourself, talk to yourself, talk yourself through, because
Correct.
it can be difficult, It really is very, very difficult, and something that we take for granted. As last week was mental health, last week, Thursday or Friday,
Thursday.
Thursday was mental health day. And, sometimes we really don't have the conversations we need to have.
Yes.
Because people suffer in silence. They go through things and they just have to swallow it, wear a mask, pretend everything is okay, and continue with their day. And it's very, very difficult for people to do what they have to do on a daily basis without feeling insignificant, without feeling, like I'm not worth anything. And it's very, very difficult, especially for adults, because while we are here trying to encourage our children, telling them that you're such a handsome boy, you're such a clever boy, you're such a clever child, look at how brilliant you are, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got all of this right, giving them all these praises. But who is praising the parents?
That is true. We struggle with bullying, adults. Some adults, we do struggle with bullying. And, people might say self-praise is no praise, but you have to learn to find a way to motivate yourself. All right? Motivate yourself.
There are situations that you go through that are unfortunate. Let's say, for instance, something didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out. And then your colleagues or your peers, they're teasing you on this now. Big man, eh? I'm talking about adults now. Big man thing, as they say. And they start teasing you. A big man, this fall through, and, you and it is very, very difficult.
It is.
Bullying in the workplace in terms of not being afforded the opportunity for a promotion, for instance, is completely different to your peers teasing you because of something that happened or didn't happen for you. And I find it to be very, very difficult.
It is difficult because some of us can't get away from that negative thought. Because, for instance, I may have a failed relationship, and you may know that, my husband, and we're no longer together. And some people might take that, hey, your husband leave here, so you're telling me that harsh words, and you're feeling small, you're feeling bad, and you're telling yourself, how do I get over what a person just said? It hurt deep. So you go in a corner, you make yourself an introvert, and what I do, for me, I seldom take on things, and even though I'm in my quiet place, I will reflect, but I move on from it. Yeah, I move on from it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it really is difficult.
It is difficult
and then
for some.
everybody doesn't have that type of resilience. So, I want us to start to create spaces where we can speak openly, access the services that are available in terms of providing that support for mental health when you're going through situations, so that you don't end up in a position where you can't recover from. Because we're really trying to self-preservation, so we have to reach out to the agencies that provide that measure of support. Staying on the topic of bullying, in schools, in the workplace, knowing how to prevent bullying from happening. How do we change the culture? Because we're talking about talking to the child about what bullying is, and if anybody tells you anything, remind yourself that I am strong, I am powerful, I can do great things. How do you talk to the bully? The person who is prone to being a bully. What kind of conversation or what type of support? Because this person also needs support. How do you provide support for that person who is prone to being a bully?
So with the T.T.P.S, we have a victim support unit. And sometimes we don't get to that unit because everything comes in straight at your charge room level. So we have to deal with it. And what we try to do is, find out the child who has been bullying, their headspace, find out what is going on. Because sometimes, children mirror what they see. Sometimes children don't even realize that they're bullying, but when they come to the station, we try to understand what is happening. Maybe something at home, something that triggers you to behave like that. And sometimes it might be out of our control, so that's why we make recommendations for the victim youth support unit to talk to the children, the social worker that is available to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, to have some level of mediation with the child or the children involved in bullying.
And is there any additional community projects? Because I know sometimes I think crime and bullying are kind of go hand in hand. And sometimes you provide community programs to keep youth off the streets, out of crime. But is there anything that is provided that will engage young people or engage people in general to make them feel a sense of self-worth? Because I feel as if bullying stems from a place of inadequacy. Like you feel like if you have to challenge somebody or you have to challenge something because you feel as if they think I'm nothing, so I'm going to show them who I am. Is there anything in place from the T.T.P.S. Standpoint in terms of community work that provides that measure of support to help somebody to feel as if they are important and that they can contribute to society in a positive way, and so that they don't have to be a bully?
Yes, we do have seminars. As I said, the community oriented police service unit, they go to the station, the different schools, and they have their seminars. They have all these stuff, and but additionally what they do is, you know, to enroll your children in the youth clubs within the district. And they have a lot of programs within that youth club. So we urge parents to enroll your children in the police youth club in the district in where you live, because there's a lot, you know, the police have a wealth of knowledge, and they would, you know, they have the homework center to bring in your children to doing the homework, quite a lot of activities within the youth club programs that we have within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Absolutely amazing. And you know, I am here for it. I support it totally. And I know a lot of youths, young people who came up through the police youth club, and they're doing pretty well for themselves, you know. So I will encourage parents to send their children as much as they can to police youth clubs or any youth group or youth organization within your community or your area, so that they can be involved in things that are meaningful, a sporting club, football, netball, basketball, something to get them engaged, and to let them be a part of something, even a choir, a chorale, you know. I feel as if a young person, once they feel as if they're a part of something, then they try to live up to the standards,
and they excel.
that they set there, because there are rules, there are guidelines. You have to come, let's say practice or rehearsals or training is from 5 to 7. You have to be there from 5 to 7. So there's that type of, you know, guidelines that they have to follow, rules they have to follow. There might be regulations. You have to wear a uniform. You have to hold your hair back a certain way. You have to, you know, so there are those types of guidelines that help them to become a more responsible person. So I will endorse the fact that children should join some type of group or club that will help them to improve their skills, their social skills, and that will of course reduce the possibility of bullying in schools and wherever they are, and they grow up to be adults who are more responsible and who are, of course, are leaders and set good examples wherever they go. What else can we learn about bullying? And
as I wanted to share that, you know, we don't have an offense called bullying. However, there are offenses that persons can be charged. Assault by beating, that physical, that kick, that cuff, that spitting. We have harassment, but harassment is over. It's a repeated action. It's not a one time and you'll be charged for harassment. And then there's assault by threats. You know, I will kill you. You know, telling somebody that. You know, those are the offenses that persons can be charged. Instead of you not looking for bullying as the offense. So these are 3 offenses that we can charge for as police officers. And the other serious ones as well, coming out of bullying.
That's right. And I'm happy that there are charges that can be applied for persons who take those types of actions. We're going to go for a short break before we continue in studio this morning, and we hope that you stay with us when we come back. But before we do so, we have to go, and we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. We're just at 7:46 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8 a.m., you have just about 14 minutes to get the children off to school and yourself at work. Remember to drive safely on our nation's roads, because we want you to get there safely this morning. We're going to open our phone lines this morning. Yes, the phone lines are going to be open this morning, and we could call in and talk about the topic that we're on this morning is bullying, identifying the signs, what you can do to prevent bullying or to protect yourself from bullies. The phone lines are open. It's 284-6597. So you can call in, ask questions, leave comments or remarks as we go through the conversation. We continue this morning with Inspector Sherla Prince as we continue talking about bullying. And we want to start now talking about the signs. How do you know that your child is being bullied? Because the child might not necessarily be able to articulate. Let's say, for instance, it's a younger child. They mightn't be able to articulate, "Mommy, I'm being bullied." Or they might be able to, but they don't want to say because they might feel how do I tell mommy that I am being bullied? So how, as a parent, mommy or daddy, how, as a parent, how do you identify the signs that your child is being bullied?
Okay, so there are a few signs that parents and guardians should look for. Changes in the mood and the behavior of their children. So if you have an increased anxiety, children can become, those who were open, they now become introverts, all right, and very fearful of going to school. When you say time for school, they become, they become fearful, and not only in school but wherever the children, like the dojos and stuff like that for the children, and to participate in these activities that bullying is come. So the children have an anxiety attack and they become unusually anxious. Academic issues, children who were, what we call bright, or, being ahead of the class, and now the grades are now declining and they are reluctant to go to school. They have sleep issues. They might be up all night, they don't want to sleep, they're fearful of closing their eyes. Someone even wet their beds. All right, we have, avoiding school all entirely. Yes, the parents are dropping them to school, but they are missing classes. They are running away from school because they want to get away from bullying. Nightmares is another thing. Parents, look out for that. Look out for the physical sign, these unexplained injuries, the damage to their books, their bags, their lunch bags. These are some of the popular ones that we want parents to be mindful. Pay attention to your child. Pay attention to your children at all times. You might miss it because you have so much things to do, because we multitask as parents, but take a little time and just calm yourself down and pay attention to your loved ones.
What about, something came to my mind while you were speaking there, what about stuff like journaling? You might find that your child they might now have a little book that they keep in, they're hiding it, they're writing their feelings in there. So you have to do things like searching their room, checking their bags, looking for...
We can do that, but we don't want to encroach on their privacy, because children like to write. But sometimes you could ask them, let me see where you write there.
Inspector, let me ask you this, what privacy are you talking about?
Well, a 15-year-old may not want to open and come and say, she might write it, I saw Mark today, or something, and you don't want mommy to see that, because mommy might, read more into it when there is nothing. But as you said, the journal, you can read the journal. But I feel that children I'm not saying under 10, like 16 years old, that have some journal, it's kind of, might just kind of encroach on their privacy. That's just me. That's just my opinion.
I totally understand why we want to give them that measure of independence. You still want to be very aware as to what is happening with them. Sometimes I've noticed too, some children take to drawing or doodling. You see them,
correct.
You see them drawing some things, and sometimes the drawing, you're trying to figure out what are you drawing, because you can't identify the object or the image that they are drawing, or you might just see them just marking or defacing something. So another sign of anxiety.
Those are another signs. Oh, yes. Those are signs. Sometimes children draw out what's happening to them. And if you are a parent and not in tune with your child, you can miss it. You can miss it. And sometimes this bullying helps children to run away from home. All right. And sometimes you as parents want to know what's happening. It may not be anything at home, but it's something at school. So parents could go to school and check up on their children. How was your day today? What did you do? Create that open dialogue with your child so she feels comfortable, he feels comfortable. Just come in and say, Mommy, this happened in school today.
And sometimes you have to ask probing questions.
To get the information that you want to ensure that your loved one that you send off to school come back just as how you send them off.
Yes, because sometimes you might ask them, how was your day? It was good. And that
was it. Yeah. What do you mean good? What is your term of being good? And just that's why it's always tell parents have that open dialogue with your children.
Yeah, you have to engage in conversation with your children. And as you said, you must know your child. You have to know when their mood changes. You have to know when, let's say, for instance, you're used to talking and having conversations. All of a sudden, they're giving you one-word answers. So you have to pay attention to the signs that will come from your children and those who reside in your space, those who you have responsibility for in terms of caring for them. Because, bullying is a really, really serious thing. And sometimes the signs can be so subtle that you don't even know that something is happening. So you really have to pay the extra attention to ensure that you know, they get that type of attention. Remember, the phone lines are open. I believe we have somebody online this morning. We're going to take your call this morning. Go ahead. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, President. Good morning. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Hello, good morning. Right. It's so nice. It's such a lovely topic this morning. Plenty times when bullying is so prevalent is because there's no consequences to these people's actions. And it's so nice that you all are talking about the parents. Hello?
So go ahead, please. I am hearing
Right.
this.
Yes, it's so nice that you all are talking about the parents. What about the consequences to the parents? I know you just mentioned about some of the charges that the child could get. Is there any charges for the parent of these children? Is there any consequences that could happen to the parents of these child? Because most times we focus on the child, but we don't really focus on the parents. Is there any charges that could be laid against the parents or anything like that?
Well, thank you for your question. There are not really any charges that we can lay on the parents for a child who is bullying another. What we do, we have something called mediation. We bring in the child and the parents, everybody who is involved, and we have a form of mediation at the station level or even mediation at the school level. But if it's something really serious that warrants to before the court, then it will be for the child to pay that consequence. But there is nothing, I have never dealt with anything where we charge a parent because the child has been bullying another. I hope that answers your question, sir.
And while you've answered that question, I feel as if, and I understand where the caller is coming from, because
holding the parents accountable.
You have to, I mean, I feel as if the parents have to be held accountable. Because while you're saying we might charge the child, or, you know, they will pay the consequences, if a parent knows that, listen, I too can pay the consequences, because sometimes the parents throw their hands up in the air and they say, well, you know, I try with this child and I don't know, and they take a hands-off approach. And so I understand where you're coming from, caller, this morning, and I feel as if we need to revisit that situation there and probably put something in place where the parent can be held accountable, at least up to some point, where they too will be charged for something, you know, so that they know this is very serious, so they will take it, because a bully is raised at home.
Yes.
It doesn't matter the circumstances, whether they are being bullied in school. The first place of contact is at home. The parent, as you mentioned earlier, the parent has to monitor change in behavior. If the child is becoming aggressive, if the child is rebellious, the situation at home changes that cause the child to behave like this. You have to be the one to ensure that you keep the child in a stable place. So if you know that the child is a bully, or you see the child, you know, let's say for instance they have siblings and all of a sudden they start shouting at the siblings, you have to intervene at that point. So if you allow this to continue, then you have to be held accountable for the actions that this child will take on the outside as well.
Okay, so let me say this. It's not that parents never been held accountable for the children's behavior. They are. Because if there are circumstances that parents go before the court for child abandonment and stuff like, and things like that, offenses like that. It's not that they don't have stuff that parents are held accountable for. But as I said, bullying, I have never dealt with it. Bringing a parent before the court because the child was bullying another. We start with the softer side first, unless that this child really take a knife and stab the child, then it is something different.
Okay, that brings more clarity to the situation there. You know, callers, the lines are open. You can call in, ask your questions, leave your comments or your concerns as we continue this conversation on bullying this morning. We're going through the phases and, you know, to understand what we can do legally to safeguard ourselves from being bullied, and how we can provide that measure of support to persons who end up being bullies because of changes in their home environment, social changes, you know. So we want to be able to balance the scales, as it were, how to protect yourself and how to provide support for the bully and the person who is being the victim of bullying. And the conversation really is a very important one, because we don't get to speak about these things openly. We speak about them from a place of I'm angry, and you're just talking. But to get information and to get guidelines, what we can do, who we can reach out to for help in this situation is what is very important, I find. And as I mentioned before, we had mental health last week, and we spoke with persons representing the mental health aspect of things, and they too gave some guidelines. And now having the guidelines in terms of the legal approach that you can take and the support that is provided for persons who are being bullied is a very, very important one. And I want you to go through again the units that deals with bullying and provides a measure of support, so that people know that they can reach out to the T.T.P.S to get that measure of support as well.
Okay, so all stations within Tobago deals with bullying, because most of these stations have secondary schools and primary schools there. All right, so we have community police. They engage schools. They have seminars, they have lectures, they go to the schools, and they have these lectures on everything, on bullying, on sexual touching and grooming. You have the special victims unit. All right, they all have a demand program for schools. We have, if you think that your child is being bullied, or your child just, you think that the police will be able to assist by talking to you, you can bring them in any station. We have the victim support unit that can treat with your children. We have the social worker that is part of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So these units are readily available to assist parents in treating with bullying or anything that, that they feel that they can't treat with. You can bring them to the station, and we are willing to help.
And I want to ask this question in terms of, because you said that there is a unit in school, they go to the schools, they have the conversations. In the case where a child is being bullied at school, at what point does the police intervene in the situation? We had a recent case at the Mason Hall Secondary School. At what point does the police intervene, and what actions are taken against the person who commits, you say it's not a crime, but the act of bullying, or whatever aspect that might be a situation that takes a legal approach? When does the police intervene in the schools?
All right, so let me just go back to you. Bullying, and I said bullying is not a crime. We don't have a charge called bullying. What we do, we can charge for the assault by beating, the harassment, and the assault of threats. All right, these are some of the offenses that persons can be charged, right? So that's under the umbrella of bullying. All right, so you talk about what is available for parents.
No, at what stage?
All right, so we only will know about what's happening in the school
if it is reported.
If it's reported. That's why I said early on that we have a demand program that we go to the schools, but only if it's reported to the police, then we are aware, then we'll be able to act on the reports.
Okay. Well, I think the conversation, we off to a good start with the conversation as it relates to bullying, and I hope that our viewers, that you got the information. Of course, if you have burning questions, you can still submit your questions via our live stream or, on our Facebook pages. Let us know what your thoughts are in terms of bullying, how it is dealt with here in Trinidad and Tobago, and what type of recommendations you would make. I mean, we might not be able to change the law, but if we have a voice, then we could start the conversation for what type of change we're looking for here in the spaces where we reside. Remember, we want to live comfortably, we want to live at peace with each other, and we want to be sure that when we walk out on the street, when we send our children to school, that they are comfortable, they are not traumatized, and that they are going there to learn, to develop friendships, and to develop themselves as citizens here in Trinidad and Tobago. So leave your comments, leave your reviews, leave your recommendations. Let us start the conversation where bullying is concerned, so that we can put an end to it, we can have a better understanding of it, and we can work together as partners to ensure that bullying is reduced and eliminated from our schools and our spaces here on the island of Tobago. In closing, Inspector, is there anything that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yes, I would like to say to everyone, We know about the upsurge in crime rate in the Tobago space, and we still invite the public to give us information. You can come to the station, you can call 555 TIPS, or you can go the 211 way. Any way that you have this information, please come forward with the information, and we'll be able to solve some of these homicides, and we want to hear from you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Inspector Sherla Prince, for coming this morning
thank you very much
and
for
having the
having me.
conversation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we end the morning show on Tobago Updates Television, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, so we ask that you stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. Do have a wonderful day.